me. My name is Lyric Kinnard. I'm a quilt teacher myself. Sue Bleiweiss is my partner in crime, and this is her brainchild. She and I have worked to bring to you an opportunity to see lots and lots of teachers who are ready and able to teach for your quilt guilds live and virtually. So this is Global Quilt Connection is kind of a one-stop place for you all to find these teachers. I want to remind you that at globalquiltconnection.com, there is a PDF download of all of the teachers that are presenting here in order. We are excited to get going for you. And our first teacher that we'd like to welcome is Cristina.
Hi everyone, my name is Cristina Arcenegui and I am a quilter based in the south of Spain. These are the workshops and lectures that I'm offering right now via Zoom. My journey is a 1-hour lecture about me as a professional machine quilter and also my adventures and misfortunes as an award-winning quilter. Don't worry, there will be plenty of time for questions and answers. Tropic quilting is based on a technique which I've developed. You will learn about trapanto, raw edge applique and machine quilting on top of that. Tea at 5 is a 4-hour workshop for all levels. You will see how, starting from a simple shape, you can do whatever you want by quilting multiple patterns and doodles. But wait, that's not all. In the end, we will color it. Colorful forests can be done in 3 or 6 hours format. The quilt on the right is for 6 hours and the one on the left is for 3 hours. This is a course to let your imagination run wild. I will give you templates in PDF format so that starting from those templates you can make multiple combinations and create your own forest. Under the Sea and Happy Village are 2 6-hour workshops. Go back to your childhood and quilt smiley houses and creatures under and above the sea. There is no right or wrong in these workshops. Be prepared for a day of fun. Borders and Sashings is one of my most popular courses. With very little marking, you will learn tricks and shortcuts to create a wide variety of quilting patterns adapted to the size of your borders and sashings. What about modern quilting? I believe anyone can quilt a line and a curve. You will see how easy it is to give a modern look to your quilts with just lines and curves. So, if you like what you have seen, go to my website to learn more from me and send me an email or a WhatsApp. I will send you my program, availability and rates in PDF format. Bye for now!
Thanks, Cristina. Now we'll hear from Michelle Tate Banton.
I'm Michelle Tate Banton with Little Pup Designs. That's one pup and multiple designs. I have a unique perspective of the quilting world. For over 25 years, I've been a part of many facets of the industry. I like to think of myself as a human quilt sampler. One of my jobs was a fabric sales rep. I'm terrible at sales, but I had fun and learned a lot, which is what I share in some of my presentations. MacGyver was a quilter. MacGyver just needed a paperclip and he could basically save the world. Well, I'm not going to save the world, but I will show you how to save time and money. Room by room, we'll go through your house and I'll share about 100 quilting hacks with items you probably already have. From cotton to consumer, we follow the journey and process of growing, manufacturing, designing, printing, and distributing fabric. Most people have no idea what this includes, and you will come away from this with a whole different perspective on fabric. What happens in Houston doesn't always stay there. Unlike Vegas, I'm going to give you a behind-the-scenes peek at the quilting industry's credentialed trade show. The public is not allowed admission. Quilt Market is where new products are pitched or debuted, new family Fabric lines are shown. Shop owners are educated and provided with ideas to promote their shops. Networking, networking, networking is the theme. Looking great, dressed in plate. We look at the history of this popular quilt block and other Depression-era designs. We see how quilting changed in the 1920s and 30s. The largest quilt contest ever in history was in 1933 and won by a woman who wouldn't know which end of a needle to thread, according to some people who knew her. Most of my workshops include 2 teaching sessions and a follow-up show and tell. Speaking of Dresden's, this is one very popular workshop, the Dresden Neighborhood, a pattern by Persimmon Dreams. There are lots and lots of options with this design. Ultimately, you're the developer of the neighborhood, but you don't have to worry about planning board approval. I'm a certified gem affiliate for M.J. Kinman, the designer of these lovely birthstones and gems. I show you her very forgiving freezer paper method to create these approximately 18 square inch gems. They only look complicated. And these are a few of the other workshops that I offer. Check out my website and you can see more information. Again, I'm Michelle Tay Banton, littlepupdesigns.com. One pup, multiple designs. And I thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you sometime soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Michelle. Next up is LILO Bowman.
Hello, my name is LILO Bowman, and I'm glad to be here. 90% of the presenters here today are offering quilting lectures and workshops. What I'm bringing to the table is different, and yet it applies to everyone. I want to help you organize your space so that you'll love it. In the process, encourage you on to that next project, class, or new stage in life. Organizing an order can bring back that spark. I want to offer you a way to re-energize those creative juices, and whether for the first time or once again, love your creative space. I was born to organize. I admit it. Nothing gets me more excited than a new boxed set of colored pencils. And don't even get me started about IKEA or the Container Store. I just love organized things. But I've also had life and job experiences that have helped me harness and develop this skill. 13 plus years in counting as the editor and production manager of thequiltshow.com, 25 years as a wedding and event planner, and 28 years as a military spouse. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My earliest memories growing up were of a world filled with order. Everything had its place and you knew where to find it. Garden tools hung on a hook in the shed, and tablecloths lived on a shelf in the closet. This sense of order brought calm to a space and calm to me. As a military spouse, I had plenty of opportunities for practice. 13 moves in 21 years of hands-on experience. Every location presented the challenge of turning a new space into a creative area with tight budget limitations and few available options. Nothing forces you to deal with the stuff you've accumulated, like a move overseas. Through TQS, I've met hundreds of creative makers frustrated with keeping order in their space, which led me to write a book to help them. Love Your Creative Space was written for anyone who's struggling with a system that just isn't working. For instance, does your current space look something like this? Would you prefer it to look more like this? I want to share a new way of working that doesn't involve the shuffle and stack, hide and seek, spending a fortune, or the inability to see, reach, or play. Learn to stop thinking of and using your space as a storage unit. Every person is different, every space is different. It's about learning to assess where you are right now in the space you currently have. Along with my book, I currently offer 2 lectures in a Zoom format. If you're looking for something custom, I'm happy to discuss a lecture specific to your guild's needs. You can also learn more about me on my website or follow me on Instagram.
Thanks, LILO. Now we'll hear from Karen Brow-Meier.
I'm Karen Brow-Meier, the owner of and designer for Java House Quilts Patterns. While I currently don't have virtual workshops I can do for guilds, I am offering 4 lectures, which I've been able to convert really nicely to the Zoom format with professional photography and graphics. And if I do come to your guild, I'm not just going to do a trunk show or talk about quilting journeys, but rather teach and demonstrate concepts and sometimes unusual techniques which I use in my own work and which hopefully you can take away and use in your own as well. So here are introductions to the lectures. My first talk is called The Smuggle Principles. These are my 6 favorite design elements that I use in my work that you may not be using. They include slight asymmetry and movement, an unexpected element, and some gentle humor, what I call the graceful disruptions of edges and borders, something lovable, and elegant details. The next lecture is called Moving On, and why should we worry about creating movement in our quilt compositions? The answer is interest. While I think color, pattern, and workmanship all contribute to the beauty, it's the movement that creates interest. And there's lots of ways to include it. I sometimes do applique on top of piecing, using irregular blocks, depicting an animal doing something, and one of my favorites is extending an applique off the edge of the quilt, and there's a special way to finish it as well. Lecture number 3 is called Capturing Animal Personalities. Are Your Quilts Alive? Every animal has what I call a distinct silhouette, and it's a recognizable kind of a visual signature that differentiates from all others. And sometimes just by including one animal block in a quilt, you can add a lot of personality to that project. So how do we capture that signature or that personality? Can I just use my favorite pet photo? How do I make it look like my own dog? And are there some easier ways to handle shading, color, and piecing? How can technology assist us? Lecture number 4 is the science of exceptional quilts. Do we even really agree on what beauty is? And what are the things that make a quilt truly exceptional? Can room color or time of day actually affect our ability to create? And is there any truth to the idea that good ideas sometimes come to us in the shower? So how do we as quilters get from here to here, or here to here? This talk explains how we can benefit from the surprising things that science now knows about how we think and how we create. Again, Karen Brow-Meier with Java House Quilts. You can contact me at javahousequilts.com and learn more about my lectures and offerings.
Thank you, Karen. Next up is Nancy Brown.
Hi, I'm Nancy Brown, and I'm an appliquer. Yay, applique! I've been doing applique quilts for about 30 years now. Let me show you a few. I specialize in animal quilts and have done all sorts of different animals over the years. Here's a dog quilt with 27 dogs. A colorful dog quilt. Close-ups of dogs. And here's my cat Opie. Opie and his friend Mittens have decided to put on fancy sweaters and go bird watching. I've done farm quilts, E-I-E-I-O. I've done wild animal quilts. I've even done quilts based on the Baltimore album style, but if you look really closely, they're animals. I've even done some quilts based on old family photos. This is my great-grandmother and her 3 sisters. So my lectures are all about my quilts and the stories behind them. And there's a lot of interesting stories to tell. This is my great-grandfather, and he was a gold miner. I'll even tell you about the time someone saw someone really famous in one of my giraffe quilts. And you'll learn about the importance of penguins and also some design lessons along the way. I'll even tell you the very sad story of the time I had a breakup with my fiance and sometimes studio helper. It's so sad. So I also do Zoom classes, and in my classes, I use patterns to teach my hand applique techniques, how I like to put the patterns together, and all sorts of good tips. And you are welcome to do the patterns in any style of applique that you like to do. Each class will also have a design lesson, and that will include teaching you how to do a pattern from a photo or perhaps doing an album design of your choice. So here are some of the classes I have. This one, you'll learn about dogs, cats, and birds. And here's the the lesson and design that we'll have in each class. If you prefer to do all dogs, I have a pop art pup class in which you can do colorful dogs or regular color dogs. If you prefer to do all cats, we can do a 3 Little Kittens class. I also do a class based on one of my Baltimore album designs. In this case, it's the hummingbird, but you'll also learn how to design your own block too. So I'm Nancy Brown. My website is nancybrownquilts.com. If you'd like to contact me, I'd be happy to send you a brochure that has all the information about my classes and lectures, including the prices. So thanks for listening, and I hope to hear from you. And
Thank you, Nancy. Let's say aloha to Phyllis Cullen.
Hi, my name is Phyllis, and I live in beautiful Hawaii. Well, my favorite way to teach you is to have you come on over to the studio. We can't have our friends over right now to play, so let me zoom my studio on over to you. We'll be very interactive, I promise. And here's what I have for you. My first workshop is called Portraits Unleashed. I love to use wild prints, but you can decide. In the ongoing study group, you'll learn drawing, photography, composition, values, storytelling, collage, Photoshop, quilting, and lots of different styles. For the one-day class, every student sends me some photos, and I send back a custom pattern. I'll help you choose your fabrics. Here's what a group of students in Israel got done in the 5-hour class. These students' self-portraits in the short class are really right on. Well, no, not the dog. We'll learn pattern making and we'll plan out the quilting. Yes, you can do a dog if you want to. But my wild animal and bird collage class is fast and fun. We divide our prints into values and fill in the patterns like coloring books and learn to quilt and finish. Here some of my students in Australia are showing off what they did in 8 hours. That's minus about 4 tea breaks. This class brings you right here to the Big Island. Making a lava scene will teach you lots of fun techniques, from painting cheesecloth to felting yarn and roving, even a little bobbin work. Here my students are partway through at Quilting on the Beach. I'll be right over your shoulder, as always. The popular stained glass classes have lots of designs to choose from. You'll learn my super easy and fun process, and then we'll do a little oil stick embellishing. I do have some lectures. Cindy from Israel and I will talk about portraits. We're writing a book. And Quilting in Paradise is all about my quilts and me. All the details about courses, length, frequency, costs, etc. are on the website. You can find me there or email me. Let's design a program that's just right for you and your friends. Aloha and love to you all. Mahalo to Lyric, Sue, and all of you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Next up, we have Tina Curran.
Hi, I'm Tina Curran from Studio City, California, which is in the greater Los Angeles area. Who am I? Well, I'm a quilt pattern designer. I've been quilting for over 25 years and have had more than 20 of my designs published in quilt magazines. Once that started, I began selling my patterns myself as an Etsy shop owner. I opened my shop in 2011, and I'm a top-tier seller with a 5-star rating and over 2,000 sales. I'm also a newsletter writer. I publish a free monthly email newsletter, just celebrated the 5th anniversary of doing that. And in it, I share my quilting adventures with my thousands of subscribers all around the world. I'm also a guild member, and an active one at that, having held multiple offices. I see this as an advantage because I understand how guilds operate and what they're looking for. When I was a program co-chair, I too shopped for teachers and lecturers. I was looking for a meaty lecture full of engaging content, solid presentation and teaching skills, someone who's easy to work with, and last but not least, value for my guild's money. So now as a speaker and teacher, I keep all these things in mind. I offer 4 lectures, All can be delivered over Zoom and hopefully in person soon when we are allowed to do that again. My first lecture is a traditional trunk show, but now instead of sharing the actual quilts, I share photos of them and the wonderful stories behind them. Since we're now sharing quilts via photos, I thought this was a great opportunity to come up with a second trunk show and share the quilts that I can't bring to a guild meeting because these are no longer in my possession. They were either sold, gifted, or donated, but they too have wonderful stories behind them. My third lecture is my design lecture. This is based on the questions I received about my experience as a quilt pattern designer, and the goal of this lecture is to demystify my process and hopefully inspire others to start designing their own quilts. My last lecture is my escape from corporate America to a creative career. This traces my career path from my start in the advertising industry to my transition to the quilting industry and what happened along the way. I'm pleased to say that I've successfully translated my teaching skills to online platforms. I use a second camera over my sewing machine and work area when I teach workshops, and I've had great feedback from my students in doing that. I offer 26 workshops. They're detailed on my website, tinacurran.com. Like my lectures, they can all be delivered over Zoom or in person, hopefully soon. All are project-based, so I help students make their own versions of my designs. And while they were created as 6-hour workshops, they could be split into 2 3-hour sessions if so desired. Here are some of the 9 workshops I offer that use regular piecing or raw edge applique. And here are some of the 17 workshops I offer that feature paper piecing. As I said, details can be found on my website, tinacurran.com. I'm Tina Curran. Thanks so much for listening.
Thank you, Tina. Now we'll hear from Sue Bleiweiss.
Hi everyone, I'm Sue Bleiweiss. I am really excited about being able to offer virtual live lectures and workshops directly from my studio, and I would like to take a few minutes of your time this morning to tell you about them. My lectures are 30 to 60 minutes in length, and some include video demonstrations with plenty of time built in for questions. I have lectures available on 3 of my favorite subjects: working in a series, easy fabric dyeing, and fabulous ways with fusible web, which highlights the many techniques beyond applique that you can do with fusible web. All of my workshops are suitable for any skill level, and they can all be customized to suit the needs and interests of your guild. Many of my workshops include optional kits to save the students the trouble of having to shop for and prepare some of the supplies they might not already have in their studio. Students in my workshops can work directly from my patterns, or they can use them as a jumping off point to design and create their own unique versions. Whichever path they choose, I will take them through my entire art quilt making process from start to finish, sharing all my tips, secrets, and techniques. These are just a few examples of the workshops I have available. I am also happy to design custom workshops based on the projects in any of my books. You can get more details on them as well as others on my website. My goal is to make the virtual classroom experience as close to an in-person workshop as I can. My virtual classes include live lectures and demonstrations, on-demand pre-recorded video demos accessible through a private online classroom where students can ask questions, interact with other students, and share photos, live on-demand support throughout the workshop day via Zoom or the private classroom, whichever the student prefers, and a live wrap-up show and tell session at the conclusion of the workshop day. I also include continued on-demand access to all the pre-recorded video demos for 7 days after the workshop and project support via email for up to 30 days after the workshop. Please feel free to visit my website for more information about my live virtual lectures and workshops, or email me at sue@suebleiweiss.com with any questions. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Sue. Now we welcome Julia Graves.
Hello, I'm Julia Graves with Special Occasion Quilts. Thanks for joining and letting me tell you about the wide variety of lectures and classes I offer. My classes are fun, relaxed, informative, and encouraging. Nearly everything I do teaches about color and value and how to achieve the effect you want. Now you'll find complete information on my website, soquilts.com. But let me tell you about some of my most popular. For lectures, that's color exploration, where we'll talk about classic color combinations, but also how to fix them if they seem a little off, and talk about really cool color effects. In my quilting journey, I'll tell you how I got started and grew as a quilter and an artist. Other lectures include landscapes, memory and personalizing quilts, and my latest, community and faith in fiber. For classes, again, color exploration, where we're going to do hands-on exercises to create really gorgeous color combinations. I have lots of classes that go into more detail about color effects, like tricks with transparency, luscious luster, and rainbow and raindrops. In shimmering triangles, we're going to use contrast to create that wonderful shimmery effect. In an amazing abstract, we'll use color and value to create movement and drama, but all with simple, straight sewing. I'm teaching this class at Empty Spool Seminars in Asilomar. In Gemstone Bling, we'll create these beautiful birthstones. And I have everything you need in my online store. I also teach machine quilting and have a Start Your Own Business class. I have one coming up here in the fall. Now, I'm already doing programs and lectures and classes for guilds through liveonlinequiltclasses.com and my own Zoom account. I can set up everything that guilds will need to do one of these. I have online shopping where you can shop for the classes that I offer to individuals or for color tools, kits, patterns, and more. I would like to thank Sue and Lyric for setting this up, and thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Julia. Now we hear from Jane Haworth.
Hi, my name's Jane Haworth, and I live here in Northern California. I'm a quilt artist and teacher, and I'm mainly known for my fabric collage pieces, many of which you can see around me. I think it is good at this strange time that we can embrace technology, and we're able to teach virtually and reach an audience that otherwise wouldn't have been able to take classes from us. So I've been sewing all my life. I did attend art college. I worked in a sewing factory in North Wales for Laura Ashley, and it was only when I came to the USA that I learned about quilting. So I've been teaching for 8+ years. I teach to travel and teach to quilt guilds. I've taught at Houston, and right before the lockdown I was in Dubai teaching at their International Quilt Festival. So many of my workshops will start with a pattern. So something like this, I would email your guild a PDF version, and then students are able to tape it together, well, print it out and tape it together, and then use that for the class. So I have classes with many different themes, many of which you can see on my website, janehaworth.com. My fabric collage technique is freeform and relaxed, using no fusible products and no pattern pieces. If your guild wants to have fun playing with collage, contact me. I say it is addictive. I offer 3 different lectures, the most popular being Living a Creative Life. My workshops can either be a 6-hour or broken into 2 3-hour sessions. All my classes start with patterns, and I will supply these as a PDF, and I supply kits as needed. So all my samples can be found on my website. Just let me know your choice of theme. My work was used on the cover of Quilting Arts magazine, and I was on Quilting Arts TV. I'm a fairly relaxed, encouraging teacher, believing everyone can embrace collage. And now my home is set up to teach via Zoom using 2 cameras. So contact me with any questions. So thank you, Lyric and Sue, for putting this all together. If your guild is interested in embracing fabric collage, it's a great technique. Everyone has a lot of fun doing it. You're able to use your scraps, and you don't need your sewing machine. So look up onto my website, my teaching page, and from there you can email me. janehaworth.com.
Thank you, Jane. Next, we welcome Ann Holte.
Thank you so much to Lyric and Sue for organizing this event. This is great. My name is Ann Holte, and here's what I do. Up until a few months ago, I taught workshops. Now we develop programs for Zoom and recorded classes. In addition to teaching, I write books and patterns, some with accompanying templates, and I enjoy creating patterns from old quilts and updating the fabrics. I write original patterns, and I also write or adapt patterns for other people and organizations. This is my picture from what would have been my first teaching experience at an AQS show. The March show, of course, was canceled, but it was in Lancaster County, just a few miles south of where this quilt was made in the 1860s. I wrote a book about this quilt and designed a template to use for making the unique diamond-shaped blocks. In this lecture, I show lots of samples and tell the history of this amazing quilt, which was made by a 17-year-old girl. In the Zoom workshop, students learn how to work with the unique diamond shape, sashing, and cornerstones that make up this quilt. In the process, they can write their own design or make a quilt of valor from the free pattern. Some people, like me, want to reproduce the original quilt, and that's where the online classes come in. Even though it looks like a complicated quilt, it's a sampler, which is for learning to quilt. You work at your own pace as you make the 273 blocks in this quilt in this Dutchy colors, or work with any colors and fabrics that you choose. To access my online classes, you'll visit my webpage, and from there you'll go to my teaching platform to access my workshops, and you can also download and print my program package for 2020 with class descriptions, supply lists, and fees. The other online workshop I do is called back quilting. My idea was to update the old quilt-as-you-go technique so that you can adapt the technique to any size of block and sashing. And here are some examples. The idea is that you quilt the blocks and then attach them with my special method. This is a reproduction of a quilt from the early 1900s. This technique is perfect for adding borders and also for making strip or row quilts. Here's a picture of the Quilt of Valor pattern that's included with this workshop. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Anne. Now we'll hear from Sam Hunter.
Hi everybody, I'm Sam Hunter of Hunter's Design Studio. I'm a quilt pattern designer, a book author, a lecturer, and a teacher. I've been sewing since I was about 7, and I've been quilting for about 30 years. I'm also a classically trained fine artist. I have an MFA in fiber art, and I've exhibited at quilt shows and won a few ribbons here and there, most recently at QuiltCon in 2019. As a lecturer, I love to talk about how we take care of ourselves creatively and physically. One of the lectures I do is a tour of my studio space where I not only show you why I use the storage options that I use, but how they function as part of my workflow and how I've created them to be at the right height for my body. The second lecture that I love to deliver is one that's about the creative process. And one of the things I also do within this lecture is I show you the design process behind a couple of my quilt patterns, including the places where it had to change 20 times before it became the way it should. It's really a fun lecture, and we do it interactively, so we do a lot of chatting with the audience members, and I really enjoy doing this one with you. Works quite well in the virtual environment. As a teacher for classes and workshops, I believe everybody has innate artistic talent. I'm a really encouraging teacher. I have a wacky sense of humor, so we laugh a lot. And I'm all about building you up and making it possible. We also have the ability to videotape little segments so that we can repeat it often for people who aren't running in the class at the same speed. If your guild doesn't have the technology to run virtual workshops or even virtual lectures, you can just pass that over to me. I have a wonderful team of people that will help me. And we can run it for you, we can take enrollments for you, we can email your membership for you. You can just reach out to us and we'll just take care of all the nits and gnats and all the details just for you. My most popular class is the Chunky Wee bag. It's a mini messenger bag, and usually everybody finishes the bag by the end of the workshop. My most popular quilting class is Dingbats, which is the quilt behind me. And it's so much easier than it looks. There's no applique, there's no curved piecing. There are several ways to find out what's going on my website. First of all, look at the top menu for a place that says Hire Me. It has all of the details about how we run the workshops and the lectures. It also has pricing details and a contact form for you to just fill out, shoot me a phone number, and I'll give you a call back and we can start a conversation. Also, there's always the Get in Touch and Contact page on the website. Hope to see you in a lecture or workshop.
Thank you, Sam. Now we'll hear from Jean Impey.
Hi, I'm Jean Impey, and I live in Southern California. I offer 3 lectures, both in person and Zoom. In my first lecture, Finding Your Passion and Running with It, it's what makes your work special and unique, and how to push it to that next level. In my second lecture, Creativity, and Did Someone Steal Yours?, I can help you and show you how easy it is to get it back. In my third lecture, An Insider's Look into the Textile Industry, some of you may know I work with Hoffman Fabrics, and this provides me with insight and information that I think you want to know. But let's look at some of my workshops. I teach over a dozen workshops, and I'm currently developing some for Zoom. Spiderweb has always been one of my most popular workshops. My Reckless and Raj Applique workshop became very much in demand after I appeared on Quilting Arts TV last year. This technique can be used for a quilt, a pillow, a wall hanging, or even a garment. Freddie Moran and I collaborate and teach retreats together. I'm also her long armor, and I finish all of her collage quilts. Here's a few samples of my class, Fabulous Faces Freddie Style. In my vintage holiday workshop, there are no sewing machines required. You can choose from hundreds of patterns that I bring for free, or you can choose to purchase Pam Holland's book from me and make any one of these. My Secret Garden workshop is perfect for Zoom. Start with a whole cloth or a simple background, learn the Dresden flowers, and build your own secret garden. Make a quilt, a wall hanging, or even a table runner. But these are just a few of the workshops I offer to guilds. Check out my website and pick the perfect one for your group. Want to know more about me and my style? Watch me on Quilting Arts TV. Would you like to see a bit more about my project, Reckless and Raj Applique? Get the instructions from Quilting Arts Magazine or download it from their website. And check out my YouTube video where I give you a personal tour of the Hoffman factory. Go to my website for more information and check out all of my workshops and free tutorials, and then book me for your guild. Thanks for looking at everything that I offered. Again, I'm Jean Impey, and I live in Southern California, and I do 3 lectures and teach over a dozen workshops. Please check me out, and thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Jean. Now let's hear what Brita Nelson has to offer.
Hi, I'm Brita Nelson, the Questioning Quilter, and today I am going to tell you about my most recent lecture and workshop. This was created specifically for the Zoom platform. My producer will be hosting the meeting, controlling the cameras, and reading your questions to me for an interactive experience. The name of the workshop? Now you see it, now you don't. The magic of disappearing blocks. Now what you see here is just a plain vanilla disappearing 4-patch. But we're going to explore how color and fabric can create secondary patterns and add depth to a quilt. I'm also going to demonstrate how these blocks are made and show you some of the really exciting options available. Let me show you what I mean. The 4-patch is the simplest of all blocks, and if you make 4 cuts, 2 vertically and 2 horizontally, you end up with 9 smaller pieces. Now to make the standard disappearing 4-patch, it's very simple. You turn each of these 4 pieces 180 degrees and voila, a totally new looking design.
Now, because there's 9 pieces, mathematically, there's hundreds of different ways these can be laid out. But for all practical purposes, with a little bit of luck and some imagination, you can get about a dozen interesting looking designs. I call this one socket wrenches. This design, which I call angle irons, when put together into a quilt, looks very similar to a bento box. And this design doesn't have a name, but wait till you see how it looks when put together into a quilt. That block that looked like socket wrenches, here's what it looks like when made up into a quilt top. And the one that looked a lot like angle brackets, well, here's what it looks like when made up into a scrap quilt. And finally, that block that didn't look like much of anything, well, abracadabra. Here it is. And that's just the beginning. This disappearing 9 patch, hourglass, pinwheel, so much more. Plus, I have a workshop. And that is titled Making Magic, a disappearing block sampler quilt. So please go to my website, questioningquilter.com/classes for more information, and thank you for watching.
Thank you, Brita. Next up is Julie Neu.
Hi, my name is Julie Neu, and I'm based in Massachusetts. Not that that makes a whole lot of difference these days. I've been quilting for more than 20 years, and you can find my work in books and jury shows and in galleries. I've also been teaching quilt making for more than a decade. In fact, I started teaching remotely in 2008 when I taught for Quilt University, and I taught there until 2013 when it closed. I have continued teaching during the years, and I've been teaching on Zoom for the last couple of months when, as my guild's program co-chair, I suddenly found myself without a program for the spring. Rather than cancel everything, I fired up Zoom and we went completely virtual. And I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised by how well it has gone and how well received it has been. We have a number of members who no longer drive at night, and they're already asking if we'll consider continuing to use Zoom even when we begin meeting in person again, whenever that may be. I took a couple of my full-day workshops and I compressed them into 1-hour mini workshops. The first one is called Let's Play, and it's an exploration of creativity and the creative process. I talk about my own creativity journey and how I discovered creative play, and we talk about a design process that you can use to create your own unique pieces of art. We also tap into that creativity that you had as a kid by playing like 5-year-olds for a bit. The second workshop is called Free Your Mind. It is a UFO workshop designed to help you rethink, reimagine, and rework those UFOs that are cluttering up your drawers. This is a UFO of mine. I took it out of the drawer, I cut it up into circles, appliqued it onto the black background, and ended up with an art piece that I like far better than the UFO that was stuffed in the back of the drawer. My regular lectures are also Zoom ready. My trunk show lecture is called Finding My Voice. I talk about my 20-year journey through quilt making and the midlife crisis that helped me to uncover my voice as an artist. I share my very first quilt all the way up through the quilts that I'm making now that I have discovered my voice. And I talk about my experience with the Muse and how actually listening to her led to the Victims Quilt project of memorial quilts for mass shooting victims that I am now doing. My other lecture is called Quilts in U.S. History. I talk about the history of quilt making in the United States from the colonial period until today, and how the quilts that were being made at a time reflect what was happening in the larger U.S. society. You can find out more information about my lectures and about my workshops as well on my website, which is julieneu.com. You'll also find pricing and review information there, as well as pictures of my work in the galleries. You can sign up for my newsletter, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you especially to Sue and Lyric for putting this on. I know it is a ton of work, but as a Guild program co-chair myself, it's already been invaluable to me, and I know it's going to be really helpful in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Now we'll hear from Kathryn Pellman.
Hello, I'm Kathryn Pellman, and this is my studio when it's clean. I feel like a fashionista in quarantine, which is the name of my Zoom lecture. There'll be fashionistas, word salad, and glue stick piecing. We'll go into my studio where you'll get to meet Petunia Olive, who thinks she's my assistant. I started my first quilts as hand-pieced, hand-quilted traditional miniatures and moved on to art quilts, and this is one of my early pieces. There'll be lots of back art because I'm the co-author of Back Art on the Flip Side. We'll go downtown with the fashionistas and into my real and imaginary gardens. We'll also go into the kitchen because I love to bake. There'll be lots of music-themed pieces because I love music and guitars and singer-songwriters. And because this is a Zoom lecture, I'll be able to share my angry women with you. They don't tend to travel, so this is a great opportunity to meet them. The newest in the series, Fashionista Quilter, is 8 feet tall, and her dress and all of the traditional blocks on her were made using a glue stick. Here I am on the set of Quilting Arts TV, getting ready to tape Paper Dolls for Grown-Ups, which is my most popular workshop. It's 2 sessions like all my classes. In the first session, we spend about an hour going over fabric and materials so everyone has what they need. There's no UFOs because the project is small. This is some of the work my students have done. So you can see that fashionistas do not need to be anorexic and they can do lots of different things. Word salad is another fun workshop. We make found poems and all the words come out of fabric. Again, it's 2 sessions and it's a small project so everyone finishes. This is word salad at Houston. Not So Mindless Scrap Quilts is a great way to get to know your busy, bold, and wild fabric. We turn them into traditional quilt blocks that are pieced using a glue stick or machine piecing. You can find out more about me and my workshops at kathrynpellman.com. Thank you for watching. I will be home on my sofa with Petunia Olive waiting for your call.
Thank you, Kathryn. Now we'll hear from Don Piasta.
Art quilters use both modern and traditional quilting techniques to create unique objects of art. An art quilt is an exploration of ideas and thoughts rather than a quilt that focuses primarily on the use of pre-existing patterns. Artists experiment with textile manipulation, color, texture, and diverse mixes of media and surface designs. Inspirational workshops that I offer are easy and adjustable to small and large groups. We will focus on the use of watercolor, inks, and dyes, as well as an introduction to the exceptional Applique method that makes applique perfect, fast, and easy. I invite you to unleash your individual style as you join me virtually, where together we will explore a vast array of unique art quilting techniques. I'm Dawn Piasta of Dew Point Arts. I'm located in Dauphin, Manitoba, Canada, and I look forward to the opportunity to provide virtual programming and workshops to you. Drawing and art have been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. Just over 25 years ago, I blended my art with my passion to quilt. I love the freedom to express myself in this art form. My art is a reflection of my personal interest to create a legacy for my family. I use traditional quilting techniques, basic art, color, and designs to create. I will be sharing my best tips and techniques with you and your Quilt Guild. Whether the plan is to remake a pattern or design original works of art, I am ready to support you on your journey as an art quilter. Together, in the comfort of your home and mine, we're going to make beautiful art.
Thank you, Dawn. Next up, we have Ann Shaw.
Hi, I'm Ann Shaw of Ann Shaw Quilting, and I do pieced pictorial quilts. I'm a piecer at heart and enjoy creating quilt designs from photographs. As piece designs, my quilts honor the traditions of patchwork. However, they also feature unusual fabric selections. In my Zoom lecture, Visualizing Quilts, I discuss how I work from photographs to create pieceable designs, and how I use fabric selections to bring my designs to life. This is not paper piecing. This technique allows fabrics to be auditioned and then sews together like traditional patchwork. As a bonus to my lecture, I offer a free Red Star Gold Heart quilt demonstration. This initiative honors our everyday heroes, the healthcare workers, first responders, and the hundreds of others who have kept us safe these past months. This demo also allows me to show how the freezer paper templates work. In my workshops, we work from my patterns that sew together in sections like traditional patchwork. My workshops are themed, so in the Chicken Challenge, participants can choose from these 5 patterns. The Flower of the Gorge workshop focuses on flowers native to the Pacific Northwest. The Foliage workshop celebrates the vibrant colors we find in leaves, and each of my artisan workshops features one of these designs. I also offer workshops posted on my website. My Zoom demonstrations are divided into 2 live meetings. This allows us to focus on learning the freezer paper template technique and explore the visual impact printed fabrics have in these designs. The time between meetings is very helpful and allows everyone to work at their own pace. The 3rd optional meeting provides everyone the opportunity to ask additional questions and share their work. This format means we meet live several times while you are working on your project. This format can also be tailored to what works best for your guild. Visit me on Facebook and Instagram and check out my Etsy shop. And feel free to contact me for further information. I look forward to hearing from you. Happy quilting.
Thanks, Ann. Now we'll hear from Annie Smith.
Hi, I'm Annie Smith, and I'm not just another pretty face. I know a thing or two about quilting. I've been teaching since 1984, and I offer in-person and Zoom events. I also like to consult with the students prior to class so that I can help them with fabric choices and any questions that they have. And then I also have instructional videos to help them with any pre-work prior to the class. And so let me share with you a little bit of what I do. My most popular lecture is Help! My fabric stash is growing and I can't make it stop. It's a humorous look at the quilter's nature to multiply and some ideas for organization. Next, if our quilts could talk, what would they say about us? Let's talk about the hidden stories inside our quilts, the ones that only the maker knows. Understanding the Value of Color is a lecture that includes color trends, fabric manufacturing, and the key to choosing fabric for your quilts. I'm a certified Aurifil educator to present Aurifilosophy, a program designed to increase your knowledge of thread uses and tips. Color Sense is my most popular workshop, offered as either a 1-day or a 2-day workshop. The first day, we play with our fabric stash, creating paste-ups using one block pattern that changes into a different design. The key to understanding how to choose the fabrics for your quilts is discussed throughout. The second day, we create a unique quilt using that one block pattern and 10 fat quarters. I know that you know someone who has a fear of applique, the dreaded A word. This workshop is all about the basics of machine applique with a kit of essential items to get students acquainted with the easy process of my technique. I also offer Baltimore album style applique with this traditional carnation block. We use a raw edge fused and stitched technique. Aurifil Thread Matters is a great little workshop that will let you stitch using all of the 7 weights of Aurifil thread on your own sewing machine, understanding needle sizes, and creating a resource binder of stitching swatches. A bag of Aurifil swag is included in the kit. Stash Busters is a unique workshop where you make a simple quilt and then, using the leftover fabrics, make a new quilt. The new quilt can be used for charity. Each quilt has a sneaky piecing technique that is taught. I offer a block of the month for guilds who are looking for a long-term project, perhaps for an opportunity quilt or for your mini groups. West of Baltimore can be done in any applique style, hand, machine, or wool. I have more lectures and workshops, information, and pricing on my website. Here's my contact information, my website, and how to reach me via social media.
Thanks, Annie. Next, we'll listen to Mary Tabar.
Hi, my name is Mary Tabar. I've been teaching quilting for over 20 years. I taught for Palomar College and San Diego Continuing Ed for 7 years. My website is www.marytabar.com, and if you'd like to see my brochure, it's under About. I teach both online and in person. My lectures are embellishment techniques. I show how to do these 9 different blocks. They're all embellished in different ways. My lectures are all PowerPoint presentations with a trunk show, either live or PowerPoint presentation also. Another lecture is a comparison of art quilts to traditional quilts, a very fun and active lecture. Color theory for everyone. I hope that after seeing this lecture, you'll want to try different color combinations. My last lecture is No Tan, the light and darkened design. And then No Tan is this yin and yang symbol. I talk about how to start from a design, go to a block, and then put it on fabric. My 3-hour workshop online is how to design your own No Tan. And we'll be talking about No Tan and different types of symmetry, positive and negative. I have a pattern supplied, and each student will be able to use that. We're going to be cutting paper and expand these No Tans. And then we're going to talk about how it's sewn. I supply a pattern for all my workshops, online and in person. Another online workshop are designing with triangles. I give the students triangles to work with, and we go through several layouts. And then we talk about how these strips are sewn together in stratus, cut into squares, and then triangles. Another workshop that I have, this is a in-person workshop, would be all my snip and flip patterns, which is based on the No Tan design. And my animal patterns, I have 9 different ones of those, are bilateral symmetry, but I also call them snip and flip by the method I'm using. This is all raw edge machine applique. For example, let me show you the star real quick. From this blue square, I only cut out half of a shape of a star, and everywhere where there is a blue star would be from that square. The last workshop that I teach in person is piecing, and we will piece stratas together, cut them into squares and triangles. What I like about all my classes that I teach is that each student has their own design when they leave the workshop. Thank you for watching this. Again, my website is marytabar.com. My Gmail is marytabar@gmail. Thank you. Happy stitching.
Thanks, Mary. Next up, we have Timna Tarr.
Hi everyone, my name is Timna Tarr and I'm an award-winning quilter, I'm an instructor, I'm a designer, and my very favorite thing in the world to do is to talk to quilters about quilting. So I'm so glad that we have this platform out there so we as instructors can share with you what we do and you all can see the wide variety of techniques and styles that all of us instructors can provide. So I have available 2 Zoom lectures. The first one is called Flying Colors, and it's basically a journey through my quilting life. So I'll show you my very favorite first quilt and how I made it in secret, as I didn't want my mom, who's a quilter, to know that I might be interested in quilting. I'll show you that, and then as my story progressed. So I made a whole lot of circle quilts. I talk a lot about color theory and how I think about color as I'm designing. After I made circle quilts, I moved into making map quilts. So I'll show you several of my map quilts and that technique, and then move into the most recent technique that I've developed called stitched mosaics, where I'm able to take a photograph, break it into 2-inch squares, and only worry about 2 inches at a time as I'm making a quilt. So that lecture has a lot of design and color and just how I think about putting fabrics together in it. My second lecture is called Before and After, Repeating Patterns, and that's much more about family quilts and historical quilts. So I come from a long line of quilters. Like I said, my mom's a quilter, my grandma was a quilter, my dad's great-grandparents were quilters. So I will show you some of their work and then compare it to my work and show you how those old quilts have influenced my new pieces. For example, I'll show you a bow tie quilt that my grandma made in 1949 or 1950, and then I'll show you a bow tie quilt that I made in 2010. So it's the same pattern 60 years later, but just how the aesthetic can change and is different over 60 years and 2 generations. At this time, I don't have any Zoom classes. I do have some standalone pre-recorded classes. Those are on my website, and from those, I'm doing some Zoom Q&A sessions. So if you have a group of guild members that have taken the standalone classes and they still have some fiddly questions, or they want to just get together and show their work, do a little show and tell at the end of a session, I do those half-hour or hour Zoom Q&A sessions. So you can find the information on my website. Feel free to email me if you have any questions at all. My website is timnatarr.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Timna. Now we'll see what Lisa Thorpe has to offer.
Hi everybody, I'm Lisa Thorpe, mixed media fiber artist and educator, and I'm inviting you into my virtual Zoomable studio where I can come to wherever you are to share my expertise in surface design and fabric collage. Here's a little slideshow to give you a little more detail, and I'll be back at the end to touch base one more time. I have 3 lectures to share with you. Surface Design Sampler is filled with fascinating video demos of how I create pattern, print, and design on fabric. You'll see the techniques up close on your screen and get to ask lots of questions. Photo to Fabric is an information-packed lecture with PDF download of resources and materials on how I use my phone and tablet as design tools. I will screen share the alteration and manipulation of photos in digital apps and talk to you about how I print on fabric. Marking the Moment shares my design process. See my sketchbook side by side with finished art quilts from my timestamp series. I share how I use my phone to collect color and pattern inspiration, then translate that into an art quilt journal. My workshops are designed to be playful, fun, improvisational, and inspirational. There are no set patterns. Instead, I offer design demonstrations, inspiration, and a framework of steps so everyone creates something unique and personal. I have created 4 design and composition workshops: monotype to art quilt, improvisational patches and stitches. Bird Box Fabric Collage comes with a kit that includes one of my backyard bird prints, and Quilt Haiku Design Essentials. Virtual workshops can be done in one day or multi-day sessions and always include video content that can be watched at a participant's leisure. I lead 3 surface design play shops that let you create your own fabric prints: monotype on fabric, often called jelly print, stamp carving for pattern and focal point creation, and pattern play using everyday objects as pattern design tools. Wing and a Prayer Flags is a community round robin. Each participant gets a fat quarter of cotton printed with words and birds and a set of fabric dye pastels. After a demo of coloration and design techniques, you'll break into round-robin Zoom circles where participants will create flags to mail to each other. That's a little taste of what I have to offer, and there's a lot more detail on my website at lisathorpe.com, and you can contact me through my website as well. I look forward to hearing from you. Be well until then, and keep creating and making.
Thank you, Lisa. Now we'll welcome Libby Williamson.
Hi, I'm Libby Williamson. I'm a fiber artist and a teacher, and I'm here to give you a quick glimpse of what I have to offer with my online classes. This is just a quick overview of what I've been doing. I have been teaching for many, many years at destination retreats and at guilds and shops across the country, and now online. And I've been on the Quilt Show and on Quilting Arts TV and have been writing lots of articles for different magazines. I have 2 lectures here to show you. The first one is called From Here, There, and Everywhere, and it's about basically my adventures in art quilting, and it goes through the history of what I've learned and where I am today. The second trunk show is called Tea Bags and Rope, and it goes into more an in-depth view of how I use really unusual materials like tea bags and rope and incorporate them into my art quilts. These are just a couple peeks of some of the quilts. These are tea bag quilts and rope quilts that I would discuss. And now I'll show you some of the classes that I'm going to be teaching. The first class is called Wonky Sisters, and this is using painted fabric, collaging it onto fabric, onto a canvas backing, and stitched with free motion stitching. And this is Tea Bag Revival. This is a blast. We use little repurposed tea bags and collage on them with fabric, and then do some free motion stitching, and then incorporate them all into a larger piece. Scroll Stories is about using a long piece of canvas and incorporating components, pieces of stitched work that are then wrapped around a vintage spool. And this is Collage Magic. This uses painted paper, and we collage it onto canvas and then use free motion stitching and some handwork if we want to. Outside of the box is a new class that I'll be debuting next spring. And this incorporates a lot of different components made from stitched paper and fabric that are then collaged together to create a montage and a shadow box. So that's just a quick peek at the classes that I have to offer. I can modify them in any way. I can shorten them and extend them over several days. I offer kits in advance of the classes, which would include all of the specialty hand-painted papers and fabrics that you might need. And I'll have more information on my website. I would love to speak to you. We can talk on a Zoom chat or on FaceTime. Thank you so very much for watching.
Thank you, Libby. Now we'll hear from Teresa Wong.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for your patience to sit through these teacher presentations. And a big thank you to Sue and Lyric for all of this work to put this together for us so we could share our stories with all of you. So here is my spiel. A few years ago, Oprah did a TV commercial where she practically shouted, "I love bread." And I feel the same way about the quilt guilds. I love quilt guilds. I love that they bring people together. I love that people are happy when they're there, and there's always a lot of laughs. And for me, being a part of that is very special. But since we can't be together right now, a few months ago I converted all my lectures to Zoom, and it's been a big success. People are connecting again. My lectures are informative, and people always tell me they learned something new. And I think that's because quilters enjoy every now and then taking a break from the how-to presentations, and that's where I come in. My lectures are quilt history and art history, cotton farms, textile mills, indigo, and so much more. I have 3 lectures on Japanese quilts where I'll transport you to this beautiful country and show you some amazing quilts. My lecture on American cotton and U.S. textile mills is very popular. Quilters love learning about where all that cotton fabric comes from. And for something totally different, my lecture on modern minimalism, I'll show you how art and architecture from around the world has influenced the genre of minimalist quilts. Plus, I'm working on 3 new lectures for 2021 that I'm pretty excited about. So if this sounds of interest to you, give me a call or email me, and let's Zoom together. So I currently have 6 different lectures, and as I said, I'm working on several new ones for 2021. So please give me a call or email me. I look forward to working with you. Thanks a bunch.
Thanks, Teresa. Now we'll hear from Carrie Zizza.
Hello and welcome. I'm Carrie Zizza, owner of It's a Zizza Machine Quilting. I know, it was the best I could do at the time. And this was me 20 years ago. There's so many. They're so pretty. Oh, a label. Tex. In Texas? I don't know. 60 WT. Watts? No. It's not a light bulb. Which one? This one. If it's good enough for Grandma, it's good enough for me. But there might not be enough. This is confusing. Top stitch, Microtex, quilting, metallic. I thought they were all made of metal. Huzzah! So comfy. But there's so many. All right, how about this one? Several layers of this, because I like poofy. That'll work. I just bought this fabric, but something doesn't seem right. Maybe I should pre-wash it. Uh-oh. This is so exciting. This is going to be so awesome when it's done. Ah! What happened? Oh, the thread broke. I broke again. Again? Still. Why is this so difficult? I'm so disappointed. And now I'm in pain. Since then, I've done a lot of research and educated myself. I've made all the mistakes, so you don't have to. My lecture is entitled A Deep Dive into Needles, Thread, Batting, and Fabric. I go into the minutiae of these subjects and include such things as how to read a thread label and why does batting beard and what exactly is a thread count. And I also include a lot of tips, tricks, and hacks because I do love me a good hack. My lecture is an hour to an hour and a half long via Zoom, and it costs $250. And there's a handout that can be emailed to students. Thank you so much for your time and your consideration. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Thank you so much, Carrie. That was hilarious. All right, next up we have Paula Golden.
Well, hello, I am Paula Golden, and with these hands, I stitch, garden, mostly weed, and create community. A big shout out to Lyric and Sue for jumping right in and creating the Global Quilt Connection and helping so many of us learn how to do this virtual system. My quilt story began back in Hawaii when we were stationed there, and I took a class from Auntie Betsy Leakey, and she impressed upon all of us the importance of story and how our lives came out through our design and stitches and color choices. Well, I was 28, and that didn't seem to make a whole lot of sense for me. But over the ensuing years, I have come to realize really how correct she was in her beliefs. I have been quilting for 40 years and teaching for over 35, and have learned so much from my students and hope that I share is at least that much. The virtual lectures that I present are the art and science of quilt making. They are combined. They are really not opposites. From the type of armor to how paints and dyes are constructed, so much science goes into making a quilt. Hawaiian quilting. Oh, the stories, the legends, the techniques, all of that is shown through a PowerPoint presentation. Healthy quilting for all ages. With having suffered from carpal tunnel and back surgery, I've learned how to set up a studio ergonomically, all sorts of stretches so that we can be quilting at least into our 90s. A journey through Virginia's quilts is the result of being a co-author on the book, The Quilts of Virginia, The Birth of America Through the Eye of a Needle. Stepping Stones to the Creative Soul talks about what happens when it's a pandemic and your creativity just went down the tubes. What are some of the common things that we all face, from no space or family that is here with us? The current virtual workshops that I offer are the ABCs of applique Paula's way, especially as we get older and those needles are not so easy to thread. How can we keep doing applique when we love it so much? Labels for Posterity and Mastering the Mariner's Compass. Please visit my website to see the additional workshops that are offered in person, and also check back to see what is being added to the virtual world. All presentations are done using the Zoom platform, and I set up a meeting a week ahead of time so that we can go over all of the pitfalls that could happen with a virtual setting. Isn't our world filled with color? It's what captures somebody's eye the first time when we're all the way across a quilt show and there are vendors calling our names. I teach color confidence for quilters with permission by Ginny Beyer. All of my Paper Foundation piecing classes are original designs, and I encourage students to make mindful variations so that they can call the quilt design their own rather than having a cookie cutter class. I have graduate degrees in science and in art, and my toolbox consists of skills and a wealth of knowledge that come to all workshops and lectures. In the pursuit of learning more about the creative process, I became a Myers-Briggs type indicator trainer. All 16 types approach the creative process in a different manner. This has helped me learn how to be a better teacher, but also present workshops through the MBTI and how creativity is done.
Thank you so much, Paula. We appreciate your showing us what you've got.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, next up we have Mike McNamara. He's our last presenter.
Thank you very much, Lyric. And Sue, thank you very much for putting this together. I really appreciate it. I tried to do some electronic work and get myself onto a video, but I crashed and burned, so you have to see me live. So here I am. I've been quilting since the bicentennial. I made a quilt back then, and after that, I joined a group that helped to make quilts for the NAMES project, the people who died of AIDS, and the AIDS National Quilt, it's called. And it was real eye-opening, and it was a free-for-all because you could sew anything onto those quilts. They called them quilts, even though they're just panels. And the things they put on there were shirts and pants and Speedos and license plates. It was really a free-for-all. It was really great. But what it really taught me was that a lot of people had their compassion to get out and their meaningfulness to get out, and they really want to express their loss and sadness. And I think that is, for me, the key to why we make quilts, or why I make quilts. And the how to make quilts, I took this 2-week course with Nancy Crow, as suggested by my friend Ann Schroeder. We met with Nancy Crow at workshops up in Maine, and I came back with an arsenal full of ideas of how to work with my quilts. And it was really a nice blend of why I quilt and how I quilt. And that's what I feel I teach people. I take blocks and reinvent them. Like here, this is your basic Virginia worm fence block, a non-standard version. And down here is the standard version. So I like to combine the two. And I don't necessarily have my blocks all over in a quilt full of blocks. I just use them as fabric. That's how I think of my blocks. And up here is my heart block. I teach curve piecing and other techniques like that. So my workshops are techniques mostly, and sometimes it's the block making that I do. And my lecture is simply my quilts and how I made them, and other people that have influenced me. And over here is my first double wedding ring. It's literally double. It's just 2 rings of gold on red. You can reinvent these blocks and make your own quilts out of them. And I'm not keeping track of the time, so I think I'll just probably go over time and get kicked off the Zoom after the 3 minutes, and I apologize for that. But I do have a lot of fun making my quilts. I have a lot of fun teaching, and I'm really looking forward to the next generation of making quilts and giving lectures on Zoom and on video. And once again, I want to thank Mary Tabar for reminding me about this event. And I want to say to Nancy Brown, that's my applique there that you might like, that says the Queen of the Austin Prep 1969 Junior Prom, because I took this woman, her name is Janice Jakewith, to that prom, and her husband Harry does, well, he does insurance, so there's nothing with reference to him in there. So again, thank you all very, very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. That was perfect. All right. Thank you so much to all of our teachers who've been here. We had a couple of questions that I see. There are guilds who are wondering, how does a Zoom class work? How does this happen? How is it anywhere close to being the same as an in-person class? Let's have Teresa. Why, you said you've had good experiences with Zoom. Why don't you tell us what they were like?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. A lot of guilds have come to me. I've been doing Zoom for several months now, and they've never done Zoom for their whole guild, so it is a little bit intimidating. And I think one of the things that I've learned to sort of help coach people through the Zoom process and telling them it's really not that hard. Anyone can do it. Any age can do it. And helping guilds make that conversion by holding a couple of practice sessions before they do a talk. And that really helps build confidence with the attendees that they can log on and they can hear and they know which buttons to push when the time comes. So that's one way that I think is a really good way to help people get started. And myself, and I'm sure all the other teachers are willing to help coach guilds on how to make this transition and get everybody going on Zoom. So we're here to help you do that.
Thank you so much. Teachers, somebody wave at me if you want to tell me. Let's go with Julia, then Annie.
Yes, I think one of the things that students have really loved in my Zoom classes is when the teacher in person goes around the room and gives feedback, you only get to hear what she's talking to you or maybe your neighbor. But in a Zoom class, everybody gets to see what the feedback is, what different students are doing, and hear what the teacher says, and they can say, oh, that probably applies to me too, and it just reinforces. So it's really been a great experience for my students.
Thank you. Who's next? Annie.
Forgot to unmute myself. So for the lecture, there were 150 guild members who were tuning in, and at least a third of them are members that don't drive at night any longer and don't attend the night meetings. And they loved having the opportunity of feeling the community of the guild having the Zoom meeting. And it was fun for me because I don't always get to travel with all my quilts. And when I hold my quilts up, not everybody in the arena can see all of the fine detail. So I could put close-up detail of the parts of my quilts that were most interesting that I wanted to share with the guild, and they loved that. And then the other thing about a Zoom workshop is that even though everybody's in their own home, it's very nurturing and communal, and the guild members actually talk while they work, and they get to know each other better. You know, they might know each other by their name or seeing them at guild meetings, but when you're in a Zoom class with everybody's picture up on your screen, you get to really see who they are and what they're working on. And everybody was sharing their fabric and celebrating the victory when their blocks were done. And so it's a really fantastic medium for us. And I really honestly think that this is the future. Zoom meetings are not going to go away. Even when we have in-person events again, we're still going to be using online platforms for this. And I think this is just the new normal and the wave of the future.
Thank you. Sam, you had something to say?
Yeah, one of the really great feedbacks I had from my first workshop with a group of ladies was that everybody was so grateful to be very comfortable in their own home, at the right height, in the comfy chair. The machine wasn't on a narrow table. You weren't sitting next to someone's stinky lunch. You could go let the dogs out at lunchtime. I mean, there were just so many positives that were coming out of it. One of my attendees had a senior relative at home and the senior relative's brother at home. And so she wasn't going to get away anyway, even if we weren't in times of plague. So this was a huge opening of accessibility for her around the structures that she had to keep for the safety of her family. There were just so many little things that they all said were just wonderful. And 201, no schlepping. No schlepping was so great.
Thanks, Sam. I want to add just a couple of things. Many of you in your guilds will have at least one or two people who are by now very familiar with Zoom. I highly recommend taking time to work one-on-one on the phone with a few of your members who haven't done it before. It's worth getting them on. We had a question about the level of Zoom membership. Most of us teachers have a paid membership, and most of the guilds do too, that have a 100-person limit. In order to get more than 100 people on a Zoom meeting or webinar, it's usually like a $50 fee to go up to the next level, and that's usually plenty for the guilds. You'll have to negotiate with each teacher whether they present on their own platform or on your platform. The teachers always will want to at least be a co-host so they can control the screen and do things while they are on. Another thing that makes it worthwhile for guilds to have their own Zoom account, I've heard of lots of guilds who have just open sew-ins a couple times a week. They'll just open a Zoom meeting, and whoever wants to show up just sits there and they sew and they talk together. It's a really, really lovely way to just build community within your guild, to see each other's faces, and a great way to kind of practice for how it works. And as one of the other teachers mentioned, we do little tutorials and things to help your guild members learn Zoom. All right. Teachers, anybody else? Phyllis, then Tina, then Anne.
Yeah, well, a couple of points. First of all, looking at what I do, people say, okay, what fabric should I bring to the workshop? And I say, well, just pack up your whole studio and bring it. And as you can see, that's what I do. So by doing it on Zoom and being able to break up the sessions, people can bring their whole studio because they're right there in their studio, which makes the choices a lot better. The other thing is people work at different speeds. And I find that if I do a Zoom where we do one session and then people have time to catch up, then by the end of it, everybody can really get through all of the different steps. So that's an advantage as well. And third is that you really do get to see all of the details as we put up everybody's work, and whatever suggestions, tips, and things that we think of as we're looking at people's work, we can share with everybody else. I think it's a great platform. I do love to travel and hope we can again, but for the moment, you know, this seems to be working out really well.
Thank you, Phyllis. And y'all know Phyllis is all the way over the water, early in the morning there in Hawaii. And isn't it amazing that your guild on the East Coast, on the West Coast in the US, could hire somebody like Phyllis when it would be really expensive to fly her over? Tina, unmute yourself, dear.
Okay. I want to add with the lecture, keep in mind, people say with Zoom, everyone's got a front row seat, and it's really very true. In our guild, I know some women have said the lectures are so much better now over Zoom because they can hear every word. I'm sure you can imagine in some quilt or church basements, it can be hard to hear a lecture or a large auditorium, but you really have a front row seat. The other advantage on Zoom with a workshop, I'd say, is there is the option to break it into parts. As a traveling teacher, financially it wouldn't make sense for a guild to have me come 2 or 3 times. But if you take that same workshop and break it into 2 or 3 pieces and no one's traveling, then all of a sudden you can do it that way. And I think it allows people to catch up and it doesn't seem like it's a race. And perhaps the folks who are a bit slower in their creative process don't have to feel like they've been left back at the starting line because it's broken into pieces.
Thank you so much. Anne, you had something to add?
Yeah, I just like to reiterate the importance that a guild can actually ask the teacher to tailor their workshops to what's going to work best for the guild. So I like to actually divide my workshops into 3 live separate meetings. Sometimes they're held at different times of the day. Sometimes they're held the next one day and then the next day. Sometimes they're held a week apart. So it gives everyone plenty of time to be able to keep pace with what's going on. They can ask for a chance to see the supplementary videos that I have that repeat some of the lessons that I've provided in my workshops, so they can follow up with that. And I think having a chance to meet live several times, where I have a chance to actually go around the room, if you will. I can spotlight individuals and see what they're doing and have them share them with everyone else in the room, is a really great advantage, and I think a lot of fun for everyone. So.
Very nice. Any other teachers? Wave at me. Mary, and then Brita, then LILO. Can't hear you, Mary. Don't know why. Still can't hear. It says you're unmuted. let's go to Timna, and Mary, you keep trying to work that out because I do want to hear from you.
I wonder what happened with my.
Oh, now we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
I just want to say something that I just saw in the chat, why some of our presentations were not live and they were recorded. Well, all of our teaching, I do believe, mostly is live, and our lectures are live. So just keep that in mind when you're hiring teachers, that it is live. It's not going to be recorded. Part of my lecture, for example, is a slideshow in the beginning, and then my trunk show now has to be a slideshow, but the teachers are presenting these things live.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
As the organizer for this, if you watch the recordings that we had before, it takes out half an hour or more as I edit out all the transition time for these presentation videos, which is why we're going to as many videos as we can. But as you can see, we're all here live right now talking to you. This is more what a live class will be like. Timna.
I think actually it was Tina that wanted to say something, but I will say that I do have some pre-recorded classes, and then I do some Zoom like question and answer sessions. So we have a welcome session, and I can give a little overview of what the class is going to be like, and then everyone breaks, goes watch the video, starts their process. Then they can come back and ask me questions around lunchtime. And the advantage to that is sometimes my classes, you really need to think and you have to have a plan a little bit, and this gives you time to do it in your own space, and you don't have the pressure of everyone watching you when you're working on it. So that's the advantage of doing it, breaking it up a little bit.
Thank you, Timna. LILO?
One of the advantages that hasn't been brought up is that it is cost effective also for a lot of the guilds that normally might not have been able to afford to either have someone come travel because of distance or just difficulty getting into the country. And so Zoom offers your guild the opportunity to get any of us into your guild, regardless of the size. And as the other teachers have explained, I do at this point just lectures. And so mine would be a live lecture that would go along with images that I would be sharing. Oftentimes also, I cannot bring some of the products with me that I want to share, but I do have them here in my studio. So that allows me a way to share some of the things that I couldn't fit into a suitcase and bring, but I can show them to you in my studio. So there's a lot of advantages. I know it's a little bit of a learning curve, but I do think having an upfront seat, good hearing, and being able to let your guild be able to enjoy what the teachers and lecturers have really is a great advantage on this new platform. Thank you so much.
Thanks, LILO. Cristina, I'm going to put you on the spot for a minute, just because I think this is one of the amazing things about Zoom. Nothing is ever going to replace entirely the experience of us all being in a room together. We're all teachers because we love that, right? But Cristina, people couldn't usually bring you over, right?
Yes, that's right. Well, I was going to the quilt show this year, but then the lockdown happened, and I was going to Houston as well. So the thing about being so far away is it makes things very, very difficult to travel and all that. So because of everything has gone virtual at the moment, it is a very big opportunity to be able to, to have anyone in your studio, teaching you, and from anywhere in the world. So this is one of the few things that I think are good because of the lockdown. You know what I mean? So it is amazing that in here it's like 12 o'clock at the moment, and Phyllis Cullen is in Hawaii, I think 11 o'clock in the morning. So, and we are all together, people from around the world. So this is the best thing about going virtual, that you can have anyone, very cheap. So
Yeah, it's fabulous. Again, for those of you who didn't remember, Cristina is talking to us from Spain. She's all the way across the water on the other side. Brita, you had something to add.
Yes, I did. I wanted to talk about the two things, actually. One of the things that's gained with the lectures being on Zoom is the additional technology of having the overhead camera that I can't really do when I'm in person. And even more exciting is if somebody raises their hand and says, oh, that's really cool, but could I see in? I've got close-up photographs, and we can zoom in and I can show them, look, this is how the side of this block blends into that block, making it look like there's a secondary pattern. And in the workshops, the fun thing that all of my students have found is that, again, with the multiple cameras, it's a sew-along. We're doing all 9 blocks together. And so they can zoom and see the camera, and I can teach each technique as they get to it instead of saying, okay, here's the 10 techniques you need to use. Now go do them. It's like, we're going to do technique 1. Look, here it is. Technique 2. And if somebody's falling behind, which occasionally happens, I can say, now hold on, show the technique, get to them now. Here, this is the step that you're on. Let's work that. And I'm not out of breath running back and forth across the room. I can show them and then go back, and I can have 3 or 4 people all working at different speeds, getting individual attention. That's just impossible in person.
I find the same thing. In a lot of my classes, I do personal critique during the end where I go around to one person. But in Zoom, everybody gets to listen and learn all together when otherwise they would be across the room. Julie.
Yes, LILO, I think, mentioned the learning curve, and I have to say, as my Guild's program co-chair, I was a little bit concerned about that. So we did some Zoom sessions before the meeting so that people could sign in and make sure that the technology worked for them and they knew how to unmute themselves and that kind of thing. And I also signed on 15, 20 minutes early before meetings to help people with technology. And we didn't really need it. People were very comfortable with Zoom. We had more people attending meetings than we normally do when they're in person and live. And so it's turned out that the learning curve wasn't an issue at all. And also the sort of cost benefit has also been great for us because, we didn't have our Guild show this year to do our fundraiser, and our budget is really tight. So it's been great to be able to save on the flights and the hotel fees.
Yeah, thank you so much, Julie. Every point that you made. Yes, that. Carrie.
Hi, I'd like to kind of riff on what Brita was talking about. In my lecture, I have a lot of tiny little things that, usually I pass around in a live environment. But this Zoom is great because I have a close-up camera where I can just show everybody. So instead of sitting there getting something passed to you and you're like, what was she talking about this? There's none of that anymore. It's really, I really enjoy it. I really like it.
Yeah, it's great. And I agree. This is such a good platform for anybody who has hearing problems, anybody who cannot drive at night. I think most of us are finding that it's really opening up opportunities to a lot of people who wouldn't have them otherwise. Also, remember at globalquiltconnection.com, you can find a list of all the teachers that have and are presented with their email contact and with their websites. So if you see somebody you like here, please contact them right away. They're ready and waiting to hear from you. So get on it. Happy quilting, happy coming together all across the world, and everybody wave goodbye. We love our quilters.
You can find recordings of previous Meet the Teacher webinars on this YouTube channel, as well as at globalquiltconnection.com. There you can also download information for all of the teachers with their email and website links. Thank you for watching today. Sue Bleiweiss was the mastermind behind this idea, and I am Lyric Montgomery Kennard. If you subscribed to this channel, you'll get notices for 3 upcoming Meet the Teacher events, where you can find teachers ready to teach virtually live for your Quilt Guild.